Hey, everybody. Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. I'm John Martin.
And I'm Dean Reverman.
So, Dean, is it just me, or when you hear the term computer vision, do you think of things from like movies and television, like the POV shots of like HAL 9000 or the Terminator?
Like a computer looking at you?
Yeah.
And how the computer sees you?
Or like Geordi's visor from Star Trek. If you want something
Actually, now I think about it, the Terminator stuff was kind of comical because does the computer really need a heads-up display of,
That's a great point.
I don't know. Yeah. Because, right, it's internal.
Yeah,
it's just thinking that through.
Yeah.
But I like where you're going. Okay,
right, but in reality, computer vision is nothing like what we see in the movies. We're not talking about literal vision with overlays and stuff on it. I mean, we're talking about something a little bit different. So that's what we're talking about today. We're going to get into computer vision. We're going to talk about how it's actually a very important part of deploying things like automation, edge computing, AI solutions. You got to have that computer machine vision aspect of it in order to make all that stuff happen.
Yeah, and if George Shaw from Pather didn't impress upon you or where computer vision is going, we're backing it up even more.
That's right. Hey, I know a lot of people watch that George Shaw video.
For
so,
sure.
I think I think they're going to be interested in this conversation too.
I think so too.
So we've got Rob Risany joining us today from Intel.
We got a good one.
We're going to talk all about computer vision trends. We're going to talk about understanding what's exactly is happening in that market right now. What's happened before, where we are, what's coming next. We're going to get into some specifics about data quality, how important that is to the whole picture of computer vision.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah, exactly. And then we're going to hit on a few industries that are going to be relevant to our VARs about where this fits in, where they can hopefully be making some sales and getting some business themselves.
Can I make a claim?
Okay, sure.
This podcast will be highly impactful 2, 3, 5 years down the road.
There you go.
As well.
All right. So are we done then? Can we just stop with this podcast?
Well,
stop making more?
I mean, if you just learn from what we're
just
about to say.
Replay this every single week.
There you go.
Okay.
No, we still got stuff to talk about.
All right, fine.
Nice try.
All that plus our usual value to the VAR and what's TEConnecting with us. It's time to plug in and get connected.
Welcome to the TEConnect podcast. It's time to get connected.
All right, as I mentioned today, our guest returning to the podcast. It's been a little over a year, I think, since the last time you were on. Rob Risany, he is the Director of Edge AI and Solution Aggregation for Intel. Rob, thanks for coming back and joining us again. What have you been up to over the past year plus?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's been a bit of a whirlwind. We've had some great new AI solutions come into the Intel ecosystem. We formed our industry-specific high propensity AI constellations, which were our high value AIs focused on verticals. And of course, Intel's been out focused on new developments and new releases of technology. Oh, and by the way, we also broke ground on one of the largest semiconductor manufacturing plants right in your backyard in Ohio. So. Yeah, it's been a busy year for us here.
Loving the fab. Yep.
Oh yeah.
Bring it on.
Definitely.
Let's start making some chips here, baby. No doubt about it.
Yeah, I think if we learned anything over the last couple of years, it's how much more of that stuff we need
right here
close to home.
Yeah, Ohio's a great place.
Exactly. There you go. We all agree. All right. Well, Rob, let's get into this conversation about trends in the realm of computer vision, and let's talk about first of all where we stand right now. So, help us understand a little bit about computer machine vision. What can it do right now? What can it not do right now? But also what's coming next? Like what's getting ready to happen here in the near future?
I was actually intrigued in your opening monologue, hearing you talk and draw analogies to famous movies and the technology that's relevant in this space. You think about, the Terminator doesn't need to have the little numbers running down in his head to figure out that that coat fits and that one doesn't. Well, what was really interesting, even in that long time ago, what was going on was it was actually a really good showcase about what happens behind the scenes. Computer vision is simply a new source of data. That's what it is. Computer vision is a simulation of what it means to take in the ultimate analog signal, which is what your eyeball does, and then interpret that information so that actions can be taken. And of course, the thing that has to happen first is we have to recognize, what am I seeing? Is that a cat? Is that a Harley Davidson? Is that a shopper? Is that a broccoli? All of those things that we take for granted as we drive down the road, or we're walking through a grocery store, or we're counting on the fact that the police officer in the bank recognizes suspicious behavior. Those kinds of things require a deep integration between the data input that comes from the eye, and whether that's a biological eye or a machine eye, the first thing you have to do is recognize what's going on. And that's where the market is right now. It's all about recognition in machine vision and doing a better job of understanding what we're seeing. That's where we are now. And naturally, what has to happen next is the evolution of how we take that input analog signal, interpret the conditions that are implicit in what is being seen, and choose to take action. And that's the evolution of analytics as it's been going for the last 25 years. And the difference now is that the speed at which the data is coming at us is much higher. And therefore, also because of that, the questions we have to ask ourselves and the defenses we have to put in ourselves so that we don't take the wrong actions becomes more important than ever. And those are the kinds of topics that Intel is deeply invested in from an R&D standpoint and from a market awareness standpoint.
So let's look at a couple statistics that we all read some articles here in the lead up to this one, and let's riff on a couple of these. And this was a Shutterstock, I think, Rob, that you sent over about predictions of the future of computer vision. It just kind of helps to frame out where we're at today. But here's one: the computer vision market is set to increase from 6.6 billion way back in 2015, so 7 years ago, 6.5 billion to 48.6 billion at the end of this year. Yeah. So that's a CAGR of 32.9%. So that's explosive amount of growth that's happening in the computer vision market, right, Robin? I guess you're kind of saying, yeah, Intel's seeing that, the compute that's happening around computer vision. And there you go. But with a CAGR of 33%, there's a lot of that happening out in the marketplace, right?
It's one of the fastest growing consumers of compute power. And whether that's because we needed to just toy with some of these ideas in the early days, in the late 2010s. But once we crossed over into that pandemic realm, and I hate to even bring that up anymore here at the end of 2022, the reality is that the shock waves that went through the market when we realized all of a sudden, wait a minute, sometimes we can't even have people in the vicinity of each other. And then the knockoff effect of things like we don't have enough people to fill particular jobs. Like, for example, we needed to staff warehouses more than we could, and we don't have enough people to manually check whether the stuff that's in the box is correct. So the explosion that we started to see in machine vision is the reality that what we truly have is the early stages of a way to augment the way that humans have always thought about doing work. And whether that's, thinking about a virtual security guard, a virtual checkout, an autonomous device that delivers a package, inside of a warehouse, or your lunch if you're on a university campus. These all rely on this kind of technology, and that's absolutely driven, I think, the explosion in edge compute, which is where we see the big growth. It's all in the edge compute space.
So to back that, a McKinsey report coming out of that same article notes that by 2024, just whatever, a year away from now, more than 50% of user touches will be augmented by AI-driven speech, written word or computer vision algorithms. So, that took me a second. I had to read that like 3 or 4 times. Like, what? 50% of user touches will be augmented by some type of AI, and computer vision is going to be one of those algorithms that, I mean, that just speaks to exactly what Rob was just saying, the explosion of what's happening on the edge in the compute, specifically around computer vision. It is changing, our world. So, okay, so I'm on a Tesla Facebook, thing. And so, you can see they just released their latest beta of fully autonomous, and if you've ever watched it, it's unbelievable because their whole way of going about it is through AI.
Right.
And they had a car, a Model 3 that like drove through downtown San Francisco, point A to point B, fully autonomous in the rain, people crossing in front of it, it's swerving around. So I mean, computer vision is right. I mean, that's the most, that's one that from a consumer standpoint, people can understand. But Rob just connected the dots back into our world. How is that factory floor robot going to be able to move across the floor and not run into humans, not run into whatever? Or how is computer machine vision going to help in healthcare, which we're a lot of? It's another data point, but it's looking, it's analyzing and things of that nature. The recognition that is happening through machine vision is going to be very, very revolutionary in our world here as well.
I agree. And Rob, I like what you mentioned early on too about the whole analog versus digital, because I feel like we're always striving when we're talking about these solutions and what computers can do and what technology can do. And at the end of the day, we're trying to get it as close to what's happening up here inside our own brains as possible. We know what happens when we see something, to your point about whether you're driving or you're navigating through a crowd or something, we know what our brain takes in to tell us when it's time to move, when it's time to turn, when it's time to stop. And how do you get a machine to replicate that so that we feel safe enough letting it do the job for us? And then coming back to what we've all mentioned a couple times already about data, I think that's kind of the next point here too, about the data that needs to come in and what we need and what data we're getting in order to make that happen. So one of the other articles we were looking at, and these articles will be linked in our show notes if you want to check them out, is one that Forbes had, which was all about the trends for computer vision for this year. The expectations this year. There's a lot of crossover between that and that Shutterstock article about the future versus right now. But one of the things the Forbes article mentioned in particular was data quality and ensuring that the quality of data that we are bringing in through any of cameras or whatever it is that is doing this collection for us is potentially even more important than what's happening with that data on the back end. So talk a little bit more about that, Rob. How do you feel about the quality of data, and why is it so important to make sure we're getting that right before we do anything else?
I'm going to boil it down to 2 words, and then I'll dive into it more. AI ethics. At Intel, one of the key things that we, are very aware of is, technology in itself is not good nor bad. Its application can be, innocuous. It can be insidious, and AI-driven systems are definitely at the cutting edge of those particular of that discussion. Machine vision is an interesting one because you immediately think, well, a machine, of course, is going to be accurate because of course, it's going to look at a set of images, and as long as I told it what a cat is, it's always going to recognize a cat. That's really nice, except that unfortunately, you better have a really good collection of well annotated pictures of cats and hope that lions weren't accidentally introduced into your picture, or any other random use of the term cat.
Like a Hello Kitty?
Like Hello Kitty.
Someone's backpack? Yeah.
Cartoon cat versus real cat.
Right.
And there's been multiple cases in studies that have been done associated with, for example, racial bias, where people of particular races miscategorized. And part of that has to do with the volume of images that were fed into these early algorithms. They learned, frankly, incorrectly from a biased input set of data. Now, let me talk about this at a technology level for a second. In AI, and when I use the term AI, we're talking about a particular class of mathematics that we're using in machine vision to teach something to interpret what an image is. Okay, the model building phase. We take thousands or millions of images and we teach an algorithm, a mathematical tool, what it's looking at. And again, I think the best term is garbage in, garbage out. If you give a bunch of images that, and you teach it the wrong thing, it's going to always interpret that wrong thing. And that might not be the end of the world. If you are, even saying this is a red car versus a blue car and you mislabeled the color. But if you mislabeled pedestrian and car in your data, that has an obvious thing that we can immediately picture. Well, that'd be bad. I taught the algorithm incorrectly. Now, I talk about AI ethics also because of the way that machine vision is deployed to solve some of the problems that we have in society now. We don't have enough people that can work at a retail store and work at checkout. So what we see are people, looking at using machine vision to do things like look at the shelves and determine what's on the shelf, man the checkout counter. Now I have one person who manages 6 or 7 machine vision powered checkout stations, and one person is there to offer assistance. Well, if I'm using these cameras and detecting whether somebody's shoplifting, or I'm trying to determine whether to charge somebody for broccoli, beans, or bacon, that's all about whether that model has been trained correctly. And so the choices that are made regarding the deployment of these technologies really counts on the integrity of the data that's used to feed them, and then importantly, the wise deployment of that technology where the human is still able to make an impact. And that's where we are today. We are nowhere close to HAL 2000 navigating the rocket. We're nowhere close to that. Where we are is the opportunity, and this is where I love that article. These AI algorithms can become assistants to humans in their everyday work, play, and everything that we do.
And we talk a little bit about all those manifestations. You're already starting to see it, right? Of where this is starting to see itself. It sees itself in healthcare, right? Computer vision is being utilized from comparing imagery in cancer research to just immeasurable ways that it's being used in healthcare. In retail, something a little closer to us, of course, you've got the Amazon Go grocery stores, right? Where you just walk through, you're picking up stuff, and the video is watching what you pick up, and you can just walk right out of the store and it automatically charges to your account. So, and Tesco's doing that, by the way, as well. And they're rolling that out. So, I mean, these are the ways, these are some very real examples that are very close to us of how it's being manifested and how it's being utilized. But to Rob's point, I mean, right, you got to have good data on the input side. And as solutions integrators, right, we need to be aware of that as well. That at the end of the road, it does take a certain amount of discipline to get it right on the input, so that the meaningful dashboards and the business intelligence that's coming out of it and the decisions that are driving the outcomes can be properly executed, I guess would be the way to think about it.
And I like what Rob. Go ahead, Rob.
The good news in this case, Dean, is that a lot of the technologies that the vendors are creating, when they're well integrated into deployable capabilities, like for example in restaurant automation, we have partners in our ecosystem where you go and you plug a machine vision camera and an edge gateway, a hardened edge server, into your restaurant, and it learns how your restaurant works. And it effectively becomes an annotation system then, so that then the restaurant people themselves can actually teach and how this kind of stuff works. That's what starts to get interesting, is when we can apply these technologies to intelligently solve the problems of these technologies. And Intel's invested a lot in trying to facilitate, the vendors and VAR ecosystem to take advantage of those to accelerate adoption and make this market grow even faster.
I like how you mentioned the augmentation aspect, because that's something we talk about a lot in a lot of different industries where people are always a little worried about, well, technology is going to mean that we're going to be firing people and we're just trying to replace everyone, right? No, that's usually not the case. I mean, it could be, but typically speaking, what it's more about is, hey, we're just trying to make life and work easier for you and
Better,
your
faster,
staff.
smarter.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I think about like the autonomous driving. One of those articles mentioned that 25% of fatal car crashes are from fatigue.
Right.
And that's a simple thing where, like, if you can just have something that can be as simple as helping augment someone that if they're fatigued, if they're tired, if they doze off, can right the ship and make sure that they don't get into a crash. We're not, again, it doesn't necessarily have to be fully autonomous point A to point B driving, but just the little things that can potentially help out.
That's right.
And I think on the data side of things too, it's interesting that, you mentioned the quality of it and what can happen when you have bad or corrupted data or feed the data through certain kinds of filters. It reminds me of, it's been some years back now on Twitter, someone tried to, or maybe in Facebook, launched basically a bot to chat with folks. They've tried this a couple times. They wanted to like, hey, let's have a fully digital AI person that can be part of your feed and interact with you. And letting it learn from what people were saying to it and discussing with it to like develop conversation.
Okay.
And as you can imagine, on social media, where people feel the need to say anything and everything, no matter how vile and awful it is,
Right.
very quickly that thing learned how to become one of the most vile and awful people in existence and saying horrible things, and they had to shut it down.
All right.
What to me was like, that was a clear example of like, well, you get what you put into something, and in this case, you let the wrong stuff get put in, and what you got out of it was not what you probably expected or wanted to hear. So,
Yeah.
well then, Rob, let's talk about retail in particular, because I think this is probably one of the industries in particular that a lot of our VARs are going to see the most use cases for computer vision. We've talked about it again when we had George on from Pather.
Yep.
We've had discussions about this and where it fits into the retail space. So help us talk a little bit more about where AI and computer vision is being used in retail and what hardware helps amplify that.
Absolutely. So I think the first thing to start with is what are the kind of outcomes that retailers or people that are dealing with people that interact with folks in a retail-like environment. Okay, so it can be a convenience store, it can be a gas station. Yes, it could be a clothes outlet, a grocery store. It could even be the local bank. These are all retail-like, interacting with consumer kinds of environments. In these kind of environments, the typical measuring stick for success is the patron experience. Who's coming in there? Do they leave satisfied? Were their needs met? And was it an efficient process that delivered value for both parties? Did they get the goods they were looking for at the price they wanted, and in and out quickly, for example? Waiting at the store is a pain in the neck. I mean, let's be honest. So what we start to do is we look for the kinds of common things in the store interaction, in the retail interaction, and we say, well, how can we make it better? Okay, so I said lines. Nobody likes to wait in a line. Well, what if we could have that machine augmentation that helped us reduce the line, the wait time? What if, when I'm in the store and I'm trying to look at the Gucci purse for my wife for Christmas, don't tell her, but it's behind the glass and I can't get anybody to help me, and I want to touch and feel that. But there's nobody there to help me, and I'm looking around for help. That's annoying. I might walk out of the store. Or what happens if you're in the midst of, trying to refinish your basement, and you've got the wrong size, screws to, put in your drywall, or a wrong size socket. You wander into one of those big home goods stores, and you can't find what you're looking for. These are all the kinds of things that we all live with on a daily basis as humans. And you'll notice I didn't say anything about machine vision. I didn't say anything about AI. I talked about the kinds of things that merchandisers, that store managers, that real retailers understand fundamentally. The technologies that we can bring as Intel, BlueStar, enabled VARs and vendors, we can bring to those players are designed to go after those outcomes. And the good news is it takes on a factor that those clients are used to. Yeah, maybe we have to deploy a set of cameras, or maybe we're going to leverage their existing security camera infrastructure. Maybe we're going to plug in, a box about this big, 4x8, that just is going to have some onboard algorithms on it, and it's going to give you a dashboard that goes onto your touch display to tell you, hey, look, there's somebody over in that corner that needs help, or this guy's acting suspiciously. Looks like they must be, putting things in their bag. All of these kinds of things would expose themselves as common, technologies that people would recognize. What's different is the software inside that's driving it. And that's what becomes really exciting, because you as a VAR that are used to providing the hardware experiences that often your retailer are used to, now you can add a new level of value, and it's still going to be something that's going to look and feel in ways that they're used to. Now it's just going to be a little bit smarter, and it's going to help the people that are helping your customer do a better job.
I think we're seeing that retail is seeing a little bit of a resurgence this year, right? I mean, it's clear that people are going back to the stores.
Not as dead as that was predicted.
Not as dead. So when you think about where is this going to be implemented, well, the outcomes are both back of house and front of house, right? Back of house, inventory control, replenishment, things that we've talked about on here. Just the need for the retail environment to be more efficient. Why? Because of labor costs and labor availability, just the connective to the overall omni-channel e-commerce, desire. So you've got that whole back of house driving. You got front of house, customer experience. It's all about customer experience. One of the things that retailers understand coming out of the pandemic is people are investing to go back, yes, but they want to invest in their experience getting in the store. So making sure, so when you have analytics that can heat map a store and help the retailers optimize where to put products and when, and those types of things, this is the way of the retail future. This is the way it's going to be. So if you're a reseller, you got to have it in your tech stack, right?
Yeah, I agree. Well, and to Rob's point, the idea of going into a store and finding that someone can't assist you with something or not being able to do what you want to do. I mean, we've all experienced that. And I remember back from my retail days, it's hard to do as, when you're working in a store too.
That's right. Yeah.
Like, especially at the height, like of the holidays or any other kind of busy times. And like, that you're supposed to be able to greet every customer and spend as much time with them as possible. But, when there's like 5 employees on the floor and 50 customers, well, sorry, not everybody gets the quality attention that they hope they have. Yeah. And now you can't do like, there's a store my wife and I went to over the weekend. We walked in and literally someone on the far side of the store just heard the ding and just screamed out, "Welcome to," name of store. And that was it. Like that was our introduction. Like no one was there to greet us, which again, they had a limited quantity of people. We didn't need to be greeted, but I think we can maybe find ways to do a little bit better than screaming across the store to welcome someone in.
Gotcha.
So,
yeah.
Well then, Rob, let's wrap up here and talk about some other industries maybe that are channel relevant to our VARs. What are other ones that you see right now that are going to benefit from computer vision?
I think Dean did a nice job of hitting on the front office, back office kind of story. Naturally, since retailers happen to have warehouses, it immediately links into anybody that has supply chain. So if you've got a manufacturing company you're calling on, they have a warehouse. Anybody that's got a place where you're pick, packing, and shipping, these create opportunities for overhead cameras to do things like inspect whether or not the right amount of cookies of the right types are in there. We've done projects like that with, your favorite door-to-door cookie salespeople to show make sure the right packs are being shipped to folks. I think beyond even the warehouse and logistics space, there's a great opportunity for anybody that's, say, dealing with state and local government, looking at ways to do a better job of taking information about what's going on around a downtown shopping area and provide extra information to people that are there, and even potentially other information about what's going on around the area. Naturally, all the technologies that we're leveraging with machine vision immediately link into areas around security, but also then all the ways that can be leveraged to improve outcomes, whether that's in utilities, a lot of different areas. But I think the spaces that I'm most excited about right now are those places where humans are doing things that, often they can make mistakes on, which is one of the reasons I really like the logistics space right now. Of course, interestingly, healthcare also looks very much like that, because there's places in the machine vision world where you can do things like, hey, where did I leave that piece of medical equipment? I mean, there's been some studies, I think you guys have talked about them on the podcast before, where high value portable medical equipment is stashed somewhere in the hospital, and they know it's around and it's not being used, but nobody knows where they put it. Wouldn't it be nice if we could have the machines actually recognize, well, that's that portable blood test machine, and we left it over in hall 3. And if somebody just, asked their communicator, where's the blood test machine? And the AI voice came back and said, it's in hall 3. I'll page the nearest nurse to bring it to your location. That's a machine vision driven application that helps us deal with things like our nurse shortage.
I love the reference to the communicator, the Star Trek communicator. I'm there, brother. Yeah. But think about it. I do like the safety angle. I mean, because to your point, John, when you were talking about, right? I mean, it's the safety concerns or the power of machine vision, what AI can do there. I mean, one of the statistics in the article, 2.7 million injuries caused to workplace accidents every single year. Yeah. So, I mean, that's a lot, right? That's really expensive. It's just, there's the power of technology here through these technologies that can help enable a better, safer work environment.
Right.
And that's going to manifest itself in warehouses and manufacturing and construction sites. I mean, when you think about it, right? I mean, that's a big one there. I mean, just that alone. So it'll be really interesting to see how this continues to manifest itself out in the market, really.
Yeah, completely agree. I was going to say something about an article we did on AI, but I think I'm going to save that for our value to the VAR section because
all right, fair enough.
I want to reiterate a little bit more of how VARs can benefit from this whole discussion. So
got it.
Before we do that, though, we want to, as always, thank our TEConnect sponsors.
Yes.
We appreciate their support of the show. Intel is one of those. We very much appreciate you supporting our TEConnect program.
And giving us Rob today.
The podcast, lending Rob to us. Hey, as always, if you like the show, we kind of want to know. I mean, I assume people are downloading and watching this on a regular basis. I'm going to assume you like it because you keep doing it.
That's right.
But we also need to hear from you from time to time. Yeah. So if you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button for the episode. Leave us a comment, any kind of comment. Just say, hey, great episode. Love that discussion. Rob's brilliant, Dean and John not so much, whatever whatever it is, we don't care. Just tell us something. If you're listening on the podcaster of your choice, if it's like Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you can always leave a 5-star rating and review there. We definitely want to see those
Helps
come through.
People find us. That's right.
Exactly. And hey, of course, this show only really works when we're doing topics that you are interested in, the stuff you want to hear about. We just had an episode last week about the new VARs guide to the channel.
That's right.
That was a suggestion from a listener who said, "Hey, I'm just curious. I want to know what you guys would do if you were starting all over
Danny.
again."
Put in your suggestion.
Like Danny.
That's right.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you want to do that, there's always a link in the show notes where you can go to and submit a topic to us or a suggestion, something you think we should talk about, someone we should talk to, an industry you want us to focus on. Just for doing it, even if we don't use it, just for doing it, we will send you a TEConnect podcast t-shirt.
That's right.
I mean,
what more could you want?
There's not too many easier paths.
Hurry up and we can get it to you before Christmas. No,
I'm not
we can't.
I'm not promising that at this point. Now, come on. What's shipping like? Come on, right now.
Exactly.
Unless we find someone that's using some kind of AI shipping or something, maybe.
Fair enough.
Maybe they can handle that.
Fair enough.
And of course, if you want to reach out to us at any time, you can always find us on Twitter at TEConnectPod or email us TEConnect@BlueStarInc.com. All right, let's wrap things up here. Let's get into this value to the VAR.
Yes, sir.
So you mentioned early on in one of these articles both articles actually mentioned that the computer vision market value is projected to hit $48 billion this year.
That's a lot of money.
And up quite a bit from the last 7 years. Yeah. I can't imagine this is going to decline anytime soon. I mean, I'm sure this is going to only get bigger over the next 5 to 10 years or so. So, Rob, I'll let you start here. How do VARs get a piece of this puzzle? And more importantly, how do us, BlueStar and Intel, work together to help them get there?
Well, I mean, the first thing to do is take an inventory of the customers you're selling to right now and understand what outcome it is that is keeping them awake right now. Do they not have enough people working in their stores? Did they have a lot of accidents in the warehouse last week? What are those things that are keeping them awake? I guarantee you that right now there is an integrated software and hardware solution available from the Intel and BlueStar ecosystem that you could go in and have a qualitative briefing on about the potential for machine vision AI solutions to solve that problem. Don't go about this yourself. Maybe that's the key. But the first thing I would do is take an inventory of those outcomes and then bring them to you and Dean and put us to the test. Because I would suggest to you that there's something there to help your client today. And we can help.
Absolutely. And how else? Another good idea here. I got an acronym for you. The IPA, Intel Partner Alliance. Become a part of that because it'll unlock and open doors into an ecosystem to help you navigate this. I mean, what he was just mentioning, we got solution marketplaces where you can go in, you can find holistic solutions. Of course, BlueStar has that as well. But in all seriousness, if you're going to be that VAR 2.0, if you're going to be bought into a partner-assisted ecosystem, which, by the way, you should be by now if you're not, then you're going to have to start leveraging some of these things. And that's the whole reason why Intel and BlueStar are getting together, is to enable our partners so that they can go after business in these new and upcoming verticals.
There you go. Exactly. And if you're wondering, okay, well, which of my customers really want this or need this, or
all of them,
wouldn't they be asking about it if they were interested in this? Well, let me tell you, go to bluestarnation.com. This is our blog. We had a recent article published about AI. We took a survey. We talked to, I think, almost 50 businesses, basically about, their business. Are you currently using AI? If so, for what? If not, why not? And also, because a lot of the answers were no, we also ask a lot of folks, what do you think it would take, or where do you think AI could fit into your business? And the answers were not necessarily super surprising, but the overwhelming theme was people just don't know where this fits into their business.
That's right.
And there were some responses from like transportation companies or like retail companies that said like, I don't see any fit with what I do or what we do in this company where this would work.
So you have to lead them to water.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That tells me like, all right, that means there are people that just don't quite understand how this works. It's still a little next level and higher brain than they're willing to think about or commit to in their business yet.
Or they just don't understand it.
Exactly.
Right?
And they need someone like you and your partners to come in there and say, hey, here's what we think may be a problem. Again, they're probably not going to tell you where they need these solutions. You need to go to them and help them understand, hey, is this happening in your business? And if they say yes, and you say, well, guess what? That's something that AI and computer vision, machine vision, edge solutions, whatever, could fix for you. And then you're going to have to tell them how and explain what it's going to do and give them the examples and the resources and the use case. But I promise you, based on that survey alone, there's plenty of people that they get it, sort of, but they don't really get it. They think they know what AI is.
It's out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah.
They think they know what this stuff is, but what they think and what actually can happen in their business are two very, very different things. And you have to be there to bridge that.
You got to be the
gap.
thought leader. You got to understand what's going on in the marketplace,
Exactly.
how these solutions can affect that. Because if you don't do it, the old adage, somebody else will.
That's exactly
That's
right.
right. Yeah.
Very much so. Yeah. All right. Well, hey, let's wrap things up as always with our favorite segment, What's Tech Connecting with You? This is where we get to talk about something in the world of science, tech, business innovation, something that's got our attention, caught our eye. We just feel like riffing a little bit about today. Rob, I'll let you kick it off. What's Tech Connecting with You right now?
Well, you know what? It's here in the holiday season. Of course, I could talk about some technology that I was hoping to get for Christmas, but actually, that's not what I'm going to hit. We've been talking a little bit about AI, and my daughter, who I talk about incessantly to anybody who will let me, is a PhD student, and she's doing a lot of stuff in the analytics and AI space. And one of the things that she pointed out, which I thought was fascinating, was that in the last 5 or 10 years, with the explosion of computer power, a lot of the efforts in the development of the raw mathematics sort of took a back seat because it was much easier to just brute force the solutions to very intricate problems with massively parallel cloud systems than, for example, inventing new classes of mathematics or doing the research into physics and other topics. And so what I think is interesting is it's her belief that there's a big pendulum shift that's going to start to happen, especially as we start to deal with these edge applications. Because now there's only so much compute power that you're going to be able to run out, way out on the edge, and you're not always going to be able to carry, all of the Amazon backbone with you, which means that our math has to get more efficient if we're going to push these algorithms and the applications for them in new directions. So I'm excited I started to subscribe to some new Reddit feeds to read up on some of the emerging topics in these areas. And I think that gives me great hope, because now what we start to do is we start to add different kinds of fuel back into the fire. And in the end, that's what innovation's all about.
I like it. And hopefully they come up with new math that isn't quite as hard.
I was just about to
were you going to go there
reference
too?
that, yes.
Yes. I mean, like the new math they're teaching kids today, it's like, no, that's what? But maybe to where Rob's going here, we need to be more efficient with our math.
As soon as he said math more efficient, I'm like, well, from what I haven't experienced the new math yet. My son's it's not starting kindergarten until next year.
Yeah.
But just everything I've heard about it tells me I'm going to be pissed off and frustrated about this.
Because it's a new way of thinking, and that's what you're saying,
exactly.
Rob, right? Like there's the math, well, the community is saying, hey, we got to think differently if we're going to compute on the edge.
Yeah.
We can't have this heavy stuff laying around here.
Exactly.
This old school way of doing things. We gotta compute in a new way. That's fascinating. That's pretty cool.
All right, Dean, what's TEConnecting with you?
And
right
by
now?
the way, he's tapped into the right community.
Yeah, no doubt.
His daughter's off the charts.
Yeah,
smart.
no doubt.
All right, here's my headline: Scientists create baby wormhole. For
always-
as sci-fi
always
moves
can end well,
closer
yeah.
to facts. So researchers the other day announced that they forged 2 minuscule simulated. So that's the key word.
Simulated. Okay.
Black holes, which everybody knows what a black hole is, in a quantum computer, and transmitted a message between them through what amounted to a tunnel in space-time.
Okay.
So
This is timely. I was just talking to Marco before you came in.
you were
today
talking about the space-time
Well, we were
continuum?
talking about the movie Event Horizon, which is all about what happens
yes.
when a ship does that whole folding space-time thing. And,
Yeah.
Go on.
Not good things.
No, it was not at all. Don't watch that movie if you want a hopeful view of the future. No, that's not the one.
So anyway, so scientists were able to transmit this, theoretical, in a simulated black hole environment.
Right.
And of course they were, which is fascinating, right? So they've got this Alphabet. Google, I guess, has a quantum processor, the Sycamore quantum processor. Are you aware of that, Rob? He's shaking his head.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
He's way ahead of us.
He's way ahead of us on this one. But anyway, so they created this theoretical bridge between the two and communicated, in that environment, communicated a message. So of course, journalists like me ask the silly question around, well, so can I transport myself between that? And the guy's answer is like, well, no, you can't do that. You can't put your dog through a wormhole yet, and it's going to end up on the other side. But like I brought up,
put yourself through one with a fly and see what happens there.
That's right. That's right.
Exactly.
Like I said a couple of podcasts ago, it's like, dude, some of this stuff is happening so fast and so rapidly. It's just like you have to stay on top of it. You're even going to understand where and what technology.
It's one of those
like
awesome and terrifying all at the same time.
That's right. That's right. So
I think one of the things that would definitely happen here is you'd expect that means that bad news can travel even faster.
Even faster. Yes.
Like somehow you're going to find out a way that we'll get bad news before it's actually happened. Like you're going to hear something bad, and then it'll happen like 2 seconds later.
Exactly. Yeah.
That'll be the ultimate right there.
So what's TEConnecting?
All right. Well, World Cup fever has taken over the world right now, and unfortunately, as of this recording, the men's team just lost. A few days
valiantly.
Hey, if we want to start winning in the future, maybe we should start sending the women's team to the World Cup, to the men's World Cup, because they'd probably still do better. So.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry if you're a fan of the men's team, but they haven't really performed in some time. Okay, but by going back a few weeks though, I read this interesting article about when folks that wanted to go to the World Cup and actually attend games in Qatar, and some of the technology and privacy concerns that came around that.
Okay.
So apparently, if you wanted to make a trip to any of the tournaments, you were required to install some apps on your phone in order to make that happen. Required.
Got it.
One of them sounds fairly simplistic. It's called Haya, and it's a compulsory ticketing and transport apps. Okay, I get that one.
All right.
Have everybody have a singular app experience for tickets and for,
there you go.
I guess, ride shares, transport, all that kind of stuff. Whatever. That kind of makes sense.
All right.
The other app is one called Eteraz, which is a COVID-19 tracker. Again, on the surface, I get it. Obviously you got all these people together. You want to have some, the whole,
contact tracing
thing going on. Well, apparently this app claims access to several rights on your mobile, like access to read, delete, or change all content on the phone.
Oh, good Lord.
As well as access to connect to Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, override other apps, and prevent the phone from switching off to sleep mode.
Oh, geez, Louise. So it basically takes over the phone.
Yeah, essentially. So basically, like all these...
That's awesome.
All these, cybersecurity experts around the world weighed in and said, like, you probably, if you're going to do this and you insist on going, take a burner phone or something to put this stuff on. If I was an employer, I wouldn't let anybody take their employer's phone or their employer phone or any phone that connects to any employer apps, any kind of information you don't want, because clearly there's, the whole background of Qatar getting the World Cup was a little,
Strange.
shady and dubious. There's endless stories about corruption in FIFA, and Qatar has a terrible human rights record, with building all this stuff for the infrastructure for this.
Yep.
And this right on top of it, like, oh, and by the way, if you show up, they'll steal everything that's on your phone.
Yeah,
potentially.
exactly. So have a great
access to
time.
everything. Yeah,
come on.
Enjoy. Hope you had a good time. I think I'll just stay and watch safely from the comfort of my own home. Thank you so much.
Rob, I think you're taking a burner phone, right? If you go to the FIFA World Cup, you've got your old, you can dust off an old iPhone somewhere.
I'm bringing a 5-watt bag phone.
There you go.
There you go. Exactly.
Even better.
Just enough to get by.
Oh man.
All right.
Are you sure China wasn't behind that? By the way? I just had to throw that
I wouldn't
out
be
there, right?
surprised if they were involved.
They were the
in some
app
way.
developer.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh man.
Rob Risany from Intel, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, until next time, we do have to unplug, but hey, get out your burner phone and and just be careful what apps you download, folks. That's like 101. Come on.
101. That's right. Exactly.
And as always, please stay connected. The TEConnect podcast is brought to you by ELO. One product, Dean.
Yes.
Thousands of uses.
Oh, I like it so far.
It's like a Swiss Army knife of products here.
Yes. Right out of the gate.
There's a free idea there for you, Elo. Some free marketing on your behalf.
More than a Swiss Army knife. I mean, come on. That only has
That's
like
true.
8 tools. This has got 1,000.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Really big Swiss Army knife. The possibilities are endless with Elo's iSeries 4. From self-order and self-checkout to order pickup and virtual assistance, pair the iSeries with a variety of stands to create your perfect kiosk. Audio and video applications?
Need it.
Yeah, no problem. The iSeries offers built-in digital microphones and an 8-megapixel camera.
Nice.
iSeries also lets retailers build engaging experiences, educate buyers, create brand awareness, and drive purchases in-store with an easy-to-use interactive platform that can adapt as needs change. You were talking all about retail's, back and
customer experience is
than ever.
everything. I mean, boom, we just rattled off all those features.
Exactly. This is the kind of stuff you need if you want to have if your retailer wants to, really drive the business and bring in the
100%.
customers. With a built-in I/O hub, USB-C connectivity, and optional customer-facing display, you can easily convert your favorite iSeries into a powerful industrial-designed POS system. Do you have a favorite iSeries? Did I put you on the spot?
All of them.
Do you know all of them? Oh, I was like,
See?
that's like a dad saying, my favorite kid is
All of them.
Yeah, good
Yes,
answer.
I love you all equally.
Good answer. To learn more and select the perfect iSeries display for your customer needs, contact your BlueStar ELO representative. The TEConnect podcast is also brought to you by Zebra. Looking for the right priced rugged tablets that have it all right out of the box?
Yes.
You are?
Every day.
Every day?
The right size at the right price. Come on.
I mean,
That's
this,
it.
This is just what you do? You
This
just
is
look
what I
around
do.
looking for the right size rugged tablets?
Yeah, I work at BlueStar.
So you probably should have started with Zebra then, I mean,
Clearly,
I don't know why you've been wasting all this time looking around when you could have been talking to Zebra this whole time. I mean,
Straight to the point.
We work with them every day.
Boom.
Zebra's ET40 and ET45 are the enterprise tablets that give your customers everything they need. The perfect replacement to consumer-grade tablets, the ET40 and 45 are available in an easy-to-carry 8-inch or 10-inch model for easy viewing and information-rich apps. With the ET40 and 45, customers get thin and light consumer styling that is business-tough, integrated enterprise-class scanning, the fastest wireless connections, a multi-year life cycle. I mean,
What more would you
again,
need?
Dean, what else do you want?
Yeah, no.
Why are you
This
still
is
looking?
it. No, not
Okay,
looking
good.
anymore.
All right.
Got my solution.
But let me just hype you up just a little bit.
All right.
Powerful new communication options, new solutions that add new capabilities, allowing users to turn these tablets into a POS, a workstation, a two-way radio, and a PBX handset.
What the?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
I mean,
there you
from
go.
a phone to an all-in-one.
There
What
goes
more?
Zebra. There's your marketing quote on the box. What the?
What
says
the?
Dean Reverman, VP of Marketing. Plus, complimentary Zebra-only mobility DNA professional tools improve every aspect of the device lifecycle. Customers can take worker productivity to the next level by upgrading to the Mobility DNA Enterprise Toolkit and additional value-add software tools. So, to learn more about the ET40 and 45, not waste your time looking like Dean has,
Yes, that's right.
snag some useful selling tools by checking out the link in the show notes.